All right. All right. So, welcome everyone to this webinar. We're so happy to have all of you here. And we are having this webinar series. We are entitling it Poop Happens, Time to Clean It Up. And this is the 1.1 part of the series, which is the elephant Heinie, is what we like to call it. So I have here today the beautiful and lovely Eva, who is my daughter, and I'm Carmen. And Eva, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
My name is Eva. My favorite subject in school is art. I'm in 5th grade and I live in Italy.
There you go. Nice. Lovely. So I'm Carmen. I am Eva's mom. I also run a leadership development company. I too live in Italy with my family. So this webinar series that we're doing right now, that we're kind of initiating with this first one, is really giving a foundation for how to achieve those dreams that you want to achieve in life. And it's a really cool method that has been developed actually over years of trying it out, and also based upon stories for the past few centuries of women, and the most recent kind of research in psychology and coaching and leadership development. So it sort of puts it all together into one methodology, one framework that's very understandable. And it's really fun for me to have Eva here, because I remember when I was her age and I had so many dreams about what I thought my life was going to be like. And I built those castles in the air every night when I was going to bed. I had so many things that I imagined about my life. And then life happened, and I realized that it was my job to make all of that stuff happen for me. And so what we are presenting here is this really easy methodology for making all of those things happen and then continue to happen in your life. So this is just today as a foundation. It's the first step on that path. And we like to sort of sum up this method with this quote, which is, "Filled with a noble spirit, she reinforced her woman's reasoning with a man's courage." So we love that, and we love the idea of having a noble spirit. What do you want to say about it?
I like how it's both the woman and the man.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's very interesting. I also think it's very interesting that it's a woman's reasoning with a man's courage. So this is a really great quote that we like to use as sort of our basis or our foundation for what sums up this the Superwoman method. So we're going to be going on a journey during this time to give you the really, really, really simple steps that you need to get the results that you dream about. And the really, really, really amazing part about all of this is that all of these steps work for every aspect of your life. So it works for yourself if you want to work on anything for yourself. It works for your family. It works for your community. It can work for your business. It can work for your marriage. They just work there. It's a universal set of steps that you can use to progress those dreams in your life. So since it's us, since it's a mother and a daughter, we are going to be focusing mostly on the family and family examples. Also, the family is a really great place for testing stuff out, because they're stuck with you and they can't go anywhere. And they have to forgive you all the time. So we'll be using family examples mostly, I think, throughout this time. And remember that this can be applied to any area. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to be going on this journey to give you, and we're going to show you what this is, to give you the Superwoman method. Okay, and we're starting today and the very, very beginning of that Superwoman method, which is right up there at the call. And it's that 1.1 level, the very, very beginning, that foundation, that strong foundation. And we call this the elephant Heinie. Okay, so my journey actually began. It began when I was 11 and had those dreams and really kind of looked into the future and said, what do I want to do in my life? What do I want my life to look like? And it really precipitated in 2006. So in 2006, I was pregnant with my first child. I was full of excitement and armed with every parenting theory possible because I had read every single parenting book that was out there. And I was extremely confident that I was going to be just the most amazing mom that was out there. So you fast forward 6 months later, and you will find me completely overwhelmed with a screaming 3-month-old, a husband, your older brother, a husband that wanted pretty much nothing to do with any of us, no source of income on my own, and I was thousands of miles away from any of my supportive family as I was a military spouse. So I looked at this huge mess that I had on my hands there, and I was so disappointed with where I was, and that I kind of hadn't been able to figure it out with all of these great theories and books that I read about all of this stuff. And I was pretty ready to just give up and accept my life as a lot less than I had envisioned it to be when I was 11 years old. So I'm going to give you, at the very end of today's video, we're going to give you a specific tip for something that helped me through that moment of that disappointment and that feeling of I'm just going to give up and sort of accept it as being less than what I thought was possible. So I did persevere. I got through that moment, and I stayed really, really committed to this amazing story of my life that I knew it was possible. I knew it was out there. I knew it was this thing that I dreamed about when I was Eva's age, and I knew that I could get there. I just needed to stay committed to it. And I actually discovered during that time and then applied some of these principles, a few of these different principles, to bring me success, bring me to the successful point. So the really, really wonderful part about all of it is that it's really simple once you just know these basic principles. So we're going to start at the very beginning of that story ourselves today too, and we're going to get to this point of the poop. So this was very much how I felt at that time, and I think that this is how I felt in all of these different situations when I've been confronted with a position where a bunch of poop was being thrown at me, and I didn't really know what I needed to do at that point. And kind of moving through that and finding the gifts that were actually there. So as I was dealing with this situation of actual literal poop on my hands with a little brand new baby, I remember going and talking with people and saying, this isn't fair. And also, this is just not working. And sometimes even asking people for help. And it wasn't working at that point. I couldn't get beyond that stuck point. Even though I was asking people for help, even though I was kind of there, I was in that stuck place. So we're going to take you out of that. All right. So I'm going to take you through the steps that got me from that poop covered mom that never slept. And let me show you. There's a picture of me as that poop covered mom that never slept. I know Eva thinks it's hilarious. And moving from that moment to the triathlete with the most adorable toddler on my hands. And then moving even beyond that to this place of a woman that goes and travels all over the world and lives all over the world, which was one of my dreams when I was little, having the most supportive husband on the entire planet, and 3 really amazing children that are here with me. That was us in San Francisco Bay, going on a hike. 3 amazing children, and they clean the toilets for me, so I don't have to deal with any of the poop on their end as well. So this all really started with me finding out about this superwoman method. So what's really awesome and crazy is that I've applied this method, this same method, to all of these different areas of my life. The area of getting in shape, the area of starting a business, the area of disciplining my children, the area of going out and really working with vulnerable populations all around the world and trying to go save the world and help some women out there. And it's so cool because it was such a short process. Like, it's such a short turnaround process once you start really applying those principles. So for example, for me with the mom thing, it was from that really super tired mom and that moment when my baby was 3 months old and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, to that triathlete was only about 4 short months. So it was a really quick turnaround once I started recognizing some of the steps that needed to be taken at that. This method is really, really cool, and it can have this huge impact on your life. So we're going to get started with showing you what that method actually is. So by the end of this actual series, of the whole webinar series, oh, there's me in Kenya with my ladies that I go and fly and help out with. So by the end of this series specifically, you're going to know what is the elephant Heinie. What do we mean by that? How you can turn this into magic. You're going to find out why this is actually so important, and you're going to find out who you can turn to for help. So we're going to start with the 3 steps that we're going to be going through during this series. So this series is a 3-part series. It's 1 per week for the next 2 weeks. So this is week 1 and then 2 more weeks after this. And each one we're going to be tackling one of those steps that's there in the foundation. So what are those steps? So the first step is find the elephant Heinie. So that's the one that we're going to be talking about today. And then we're going to be talking about finding the motivation and then finding the actual superwoman. So, so do you guys remember how I was talking about with my 3-month-old son and how I had no idea what I was doing? And I remember one night very specifically when I looked at my husband and I said to him, I said, I'm drowning here. Because I had no idea what I was doing as a mom. And that man, he took his fork and he put another bite of food in his mouth and he chewed that bite of food and he swallowed. And then he took another bite of food and put it in his mouth and chewed that bite of food and swallowed. And he was like looking at me while we were sitting at the table. I mean, I was like, I'm drowning. I literally said the words, I'm drowning here. And he just looked at me. And I don't know if y'all know this, if you've ever seen this book before, but it was much like that. It was definitely the deer in headlights, terrified look of, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do at this point. So it was kind of around that time that I started realizing that what I was asking for help with was too overwhelming. Like, it was a very overwhelming thing that I was talking with people about. And that they would just kind of run away almost because the problem was like, it was too big. It was too much for them to handle. So have you ever heard that saying, or that riddle, how do you eat an elephant? There's a riddle that's out there. You've heard, I just told you this. So there's a riddle out there that says, how do you eat an elephant? And this is about what that looks like. You envision in your head when somebody comes up to you and you're like, hey, how do I eat an elephant? Right?
Like what?
Yeah, it's like this huge thing. I mean, people literally like run away from it. Yeah, go ahead.
It took months to eat a quarter of a cow.
Yeah.
How do you expect to eat an elephant?
Yeah, exactly. It can be really, really intimidating when you ask people that question, when it's such a huge question. You get that, that deer in headlights look. So what we need to do, because what the answer to this riddle is, how do you eat an elephant? The answer to it is 1 bite at a time. Okay. So this is what we're going to be working on today, is finding that 1 bite at a time. So you can get to that point where you know exactly what it is that you're doing and you're not overwhelmed with that elephant that's there. So, I'd like to kind of pull this back and apply this also to different areas. So it's not just about having a brand new baby. I've talked with women all over the world that have confronted this exact same situation, this elephant, where you're just like, there is a huge elephant that I'm supposed to tackle right now. So it can be anything from, losing weight, getting into shape. It can feel like a crazy, crazy, huge mountain to climb. It can feel like disciplining your children, right? Like if your kids are being poopy and are like really having issues and they're not listening to you, that can feel like this huge mountain that you need to climb. For some of the women that I work with that are in more vulnerable situations, when they're like, I don't have a job, I've never had a job, I don't even know how to start that. That can feel like this huge mountain to climb, and it can just be this elephant that's in front of us. So what we need to do is we need to find the elephant, Heinie. So we need to find that one bite, that one nugget, that one piece that is the very, very, very first place to start. So I would like to say something here. This sounds easy. It is very hard to do. If you've ever tried doing it, this is an actual hard process of simply just finding that one little spot to start. And a lot of times, we, especially women, will feel like we almost don't even have time to dedicate to figuring out what is that one first thing. What's that one first bite of the elephant, okay? So we're going to give you some really easy tools to get there. And these tools actually come from the coaching world. So coaching is really good at helping you to kind of realize your potential and get there. And so there are some really easy tools that you can use from coaching to figure out what that little nugget is. So we're going to give you an example of what this looks like. So Eva is our Vanna White here. She's volunteered to be almost like a coaching client and to give you an example of what this looks like for you in your life, okay? And I'm going to be in the place of the coach. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like...
Okay, hold on. Let me ask the question first,
okay.
okay? So, I asked Eva to think about something that she was struggling with, especially in the family, right? Okay. All right. So go ahead. You've come up with something, yeah.
I feel like I struggle with trying to control Dean.
Oh, okay. That's super interesting. So Dean is the littlest guy in this family, the youngest one. So Eva's the middle child. So, okay. So you feel, so it's an issue of controlling Dean, that you're struggling to control Dean. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Like give me an example or talk about it a little bit more.
Like, I feel like, which you have confirmed, Dean listens to my big brother, but not me, for some mystical, magical reason. And that very much annoys me. For example, today we were playing Legos, and he got one of his guys and did something really weird. And it was in my room, and he was like taking pictures of us. And when I told him to stop, I even used my peace diamond that we have. He wouldn't listen to me, but when Jack then brought in his authorities, he did listen to Jack.
Okay. So I'm hearing that you're feeling very frustrated and angry about this situation. Is that right?
Yes.
What are some other feelings that sort of come up from you?
Like it's unfair.
Okay. That unfairness, that unjustness. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Great. So what's possible for you if this was like the perfect world, it was perfect and it was exactly the way that you could imagine it being. It was a wonderful 10. What would that look like to you?
Dean annoying me that way? What would that look like?
Yeah.
When I said things that actually, for him to respect me as much as Jack, he would respect me as much as Jack. So like when I did that, he would have listened to me and said sorry, and then we would have talked about it, and the world would have gone on.
Okay. So kind of a place where there's not so much conflict, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So sort of a peaceful, conflict-free place where you can say things and it doesn't precipitate conflict. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Would that be about right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the same respect. Like, I have the same respect as Jack.
Okay. So how about like your feelings towards Dean? How would that be?
I would love him. I mean, I still do, but I would be a bit more evident in that moment. I would not be annoyed by him. And what do you mean? Like, other than that?
I mean, in the perfect world, how would your feelings be towards Dean?
I would love him always, and when he messes something up, clean it up without grumbling.
Okay. Okay. If you had like a color to put to the perfect place, what would it be?
The white.
Oh, really? Okay. Why white?
Because I usually think of white as like nothing's happened to it. There's no marks that have been put on it because of like hurt or something. And so it's sort of like heaven. I envision heaven as a bunch of marble buildings, all on the clouds.
So it's like a white cleaned out place.
Yes, sir.
So it's almost like you're cleaned out on the inside from all of these emotions. Is that
Yes,
right?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what's the color that you would put to it right now?
Red.
Okay. What does that mean for you?
Chaotic and mad.
Okay. So right now it sounds like you're in a situation where you're feeling kind of chaotic and angry, and you want to move to a situation where you can feel that sort of like white, cleaned out peacefulness. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is specifically to do with your relationships with your brother, or is it kind of in general?
I think with Dean, specifically to do with my relationship with my brother.
Okay. So it doesn't apply to anybody else.
I don't think so. Maybe a little bit the boys in my class, but yes.
Okay. So could the topic maybe be how you, Eva, can move from this place of sort of red and anger and really full of all these emotions to this place of white, peace, clean outedness? What do you think about that as a topic?
Yes, sir.
So that instead of it like being specifically attached to Dean, it's a like, how do you move yourself from one place to another? Kind of how do you get there? What do you think about that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So that's a really great topic. Okay. And it's a really cool one for you to go and think about. And thank you very much for articulating all of that. Yes.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Riley. Okay, so that was an example of a coaching conversation. So we're going to send you in an email after this webinar an actual resource sheet that's called the Powerful Questions resource sheet. And this is just a bunch of questions that have been compiled by coaches around the world, certified, like really highly certified coaches around the world, that they use when they're in these coaching conversations to help draw out what's actually going on. So I want to really highlight here, did you guys notice that we started, where did we start? Where did the topic start? You, Eva, tell me what do you think?
With somebody else?
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? It started with something was going on with somebody else, and you wanted to change somebody else, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so then it migrated to this other topic that was a little bit of a bigger topic that was going on in Eva's life of sort of processing. Okay, so the very first step that we kind of went through as we were going through this process is the step number 1 in finding this elephant Heinie. So step number 1 is to say all of the things. Okay, so it's really important to give yourself that time to really just say all of the things, right? So Eva gave herself the space and the time to say the things. And I asked her I said, could you talk about that a little bit more? So this is kind of the very first thing that needs to happen in this foundation when you're trying to achieve the dreams of whatever it is. You need to figure out where that first point is. And the first thing that you need to do is you need to say all of the things. So why do you need to say all of the things? Because you need to get out all of the things that are going on inside of yourself. So really interestingly, we have the ability as human beings to think inside of our heads about 900 words per minute. We only have the ability to say out loud about 150 words per minute. So we have all of these things that are washing up around in our heads, and we need to figure out what is the actual right thing, or kind of what is the main point of all of those things. So you can do this in two ways. One way is you can find a friend or a mom or maybe a daughter if she's old enough to talk with you about it. And you can give them the powerful question sheet and say, could you have a conversation with me about this? Because I feel like there's something that I want to do. I don't know what's the first step. I don't know what that little first bite is. Could you help me out with this? So the first thing that you can do is you can give your friend that sheet and you can say, help me out with this. Another possibility is you can do something that's called stream of conscious journaling. So Eva really likes to do this personally, and it's got to be hard to have a coach for a mom. So, so yeah, right, exactly.
I'm getting coaching here, there, everywhere,
all the time. So she can do it on her own then. She has the space to do it on her own. So stream of conscious journaling is when you sit down and you have your journal in front of you and you put your pen or your pencil on the piece of paper and you start writing, and you do not stop writing. And you have to keep doing that for at least 10 minutes. Okay. The reason why is because after 8 minutes, our brains actually start opening up and we start being able to find what's really going on in there. So you have to write stream of conscious for at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes is better. And it can be kind of awkward when you first start doing it, because it's like, I'm sitting here writing and I don't know why I'm writing, and this is boring, and my journal is pink and I don't know what's actually going on, and right, you're just writing just literally everything that's going through your head. So that's a really effective way of getting out there the words that you need to say if you don't have somebody that can be of service to you and help you out with those powerful questions, resources. Okay. So the next step in the finding the elephant, Heinie, is to listen, right? So I had to be a very good listener to Eva on all of this. Okay. So with the listening, there are three levels of listening that we have actually. So the first level is when we're listening to somebody, but really on the inside of our head, we're like, I need to go to the store and get some bananas on my way home. And I need to I have to clean up, and oh shoot, we need to put another load of laundry and all of that kind of stuff. That's called level one listening. That's when I'm listening to actually the things going on in my head instead of what's going on with her. So
we were talking about that at school, and we were talking about the difference between hearing and listening. Listening is when you actually pay attention and like the words register, and hearing is when, as my teacher says, it goes through one ear and goes out the other.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, right? It's just not registering in there. So the second level of listening is instead that when you're really deeply listening to that person. So I was really looking in Eva's eyes, and I was really paying attention to what she had to say. And then the level 3 listening is something that I actually just demonstrated, which was Eva clearly wanted to say something in the system, and I paid enough attention to her body language and kind of the emotions and the energy that she was putting off to recognize that this was something that she wanted to do at that moment. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to find somebody who's willing to be that level 2 listener. Again, moms are really good at that. Okay. Moms can sometimes have their agenda of their own things that they want you to do and want you to accomplish. moms are totally good at that. So if you can say too much, yeah. So if you can say to them, I really need you to just be a listener here and help me pick things out. And then if you can actually give them the powerful questions resource sheet, that can be very helpful as well for them to understand what it is that they're supposed to be listening for to kind of move forward the conversation. If you are doing the stream of conscious journaling, it's your job to go back and read through the things that you journaled about, bring those powerful questions with you, and start listening to the things that you are journaling about. Start listening to what that is. What are you picking out there? What's coming up as you're thinking about these different things, okay? So listening there as you're journaling yourself. And you can also really start listening to that voice inside of you, so that as you're journaling and as you're kind of journaling out those thoughts, if you're hearing things come in, make sure that you write that down too, because that's a form of listening. It's a form of listening to your unconscious, to the things that drive you, to the universe that's speaking to you, okay? So that's step number 2. So make sure that you listen. And I don't know if you saw this, but this step is big. It's really large on here because it's a really important part of the process. So you need to say all the things. You need to then really listen to it. And then you need to start putting yourself in the position like this is a school project. Okay? So that means, what does that mean? Most of us are fairly dedicated to school or school projects, at least in one subject where we're like, I am going to love this project. So when we're assigned a project, we really dedicate time to doing that homework and to making sure that we are accomplishing that project in a really great way, right? So that we can get a good grade, yeah? Or we can learn the thing. But for me, it was all about getting a good grade. Why did you? Yeah. So I want you to put yourself into that position as well. It's very, very important to put yourself in the position of, this is a project and it's for a part of my life. And that part of my life, it's almost like a class that I am in right now, okay? For some reason, that part of your life is calling for you to learn more there, to grow. It's almost like the universe has said, hey, look, here's your schedule for next fall for what classes you're going to be taking, okay? And so it's your job to be like, okay, well, so here's a class for what I need to take here, and dedicate that time just as you would to any school project. We are going to send out as well something that's called the Wheel of Life. And this is something that coaches use to help people to organize sort of the areas of their life and where they're feeling in those areas of their life. So this might be helpful for you to look at. You might find one of them where you're like, ooh, instead of being at a 10 here and 8 here, maybe I'm at a 4 here. I'm feeling kind of like a 4 on this one. And that could be one where, again, the universe or life is saying to you, oh, look, here's a class that you're going to be taking next, okay? So really get yourself into that position of a student and honor it. Dedicate some time to it because your life is asking for you to learn that lesson there and to grow in that space. Okay, so that's it. So what I want you to do is to really make sure that you've nailed down these 3 core principles of it, which is saying all of those things. So that's finding a friend that will listen, or doing the journaling, listening to what you're actually saying. So that's taking those powerful questions and really listening to the deeper things that are coming out of there, and then treating it like a school project. So see which class is being called for you in life, and then go for it and dedicate time to it. So this is going to be your homework between now and next week, okay? So your homework is to do each of these 3 things, and especially the saying all of the things and having someone to listen to you. That is your homework. It's your project to figure out what is the elephant Heinie for you, all right? What is that very, very first thing for you? And for example, for Eva in this, she's going to be using this as an example as we're going forward, which is, how does she move herself from this position of kind of that red anger and the feeling full and frustration to this place of white. And for her, it was in the family area of life. So it's almost like emotional intelligence and family is a class that life is handing to her to learn about right now. So you're going to dedicate some time this week to doing that, yeah?
Yes, sir.
To journaling, doing some stream of consciousness journaling about it, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and I am too. I'm going to come up with a topic about something that I want to have be better in my life as well, or feel like there's a place for me to grow, that the universe is asking me to grow there. So I told you at the beginning of the video that when I was in that position with the 3-month-old and just really kind of everything was sort of falling apart, that I really, there was a time when I was like, whatever, I'm just going to give up. Life is not going to be as amazing as I thought it would be. And I said that I would give you a tip, a bonus tip on how to get through that moment. So if you're at that point of frustration and you're like, whatever, it's just not going to be the way that I imagined it would be when I was 11 years old, I want you to work on this. So this is a principle from business as well, and it's called Start With Why. And it's basically just, you need to figure out your why. You know, you need to figure out why it is that you're doing all of this stuff, and what motivates you to keep working hard on life and dedicating to your story, the story of your life. And we're going to be talking about it a little bit more next week as well. So this will give you sort of like extra credit on your project for this week. Okay. So
extra
if you
can I get a 10?
Yeah, exactly. So if you can start thinking about that why as well, and maybe journaling about the why or talking with some friends about the why, that will help you have a leg up for our next week's class. Okay. All right. So that's it. That's all for today. Do you have any questions?
I'm okay.
Do you guys have any questions?
I have a question. I have 2 questions, in fact.
I'm ready.
Okay, the first one is I never journaled before. So how do I do it? And the second question I have is, should I focus on now one specific thing? Like, should I, dig deep into one specific concern I have or challenge I have? Or should I just write about anything that comes across my mind?
I feel like you want to say something. Is that true?
I have an idea for I think
for the second one.
Yes. I think write about anything that comes to mind.
Yeah. So for the second one, in terms of, do I just focus on one area or do I just sort of let it go? Let it flow. Like, if you can think of yourself as being in the flow and letting it all just sort of flow through you, through your pencil onto the paper, that is where the most creativity is going to come, and you're going to figure out what's going on in your unconscious that you might not know about. So don't focus on one area. Like, don't control it. Does that make sense? Like, don't be like, it only has to be about this one area. Just truly let it flow. And if you want to start with one area, that sometimes helps with starting. And then just let it go. Whatever comes, just to keep writing about it. Really, if it's literally about like, I am so bored, 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 I am so bored. Yeah, just keep writing. It's a technique for unlocking what's going on in your unconscious there. Okay. So does that help with the second question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So with the first question about, like, you've never journaled before and how do you even start? So
I was there.
Yeah, we've all been there. So
I'm terrible at journaling.
No, that's not true. You're lovely at
I used to have like 7 million journals, and I'm like, I don't want to write. I just want to, like, I don't know, go play Legos.
We've all been there. Who hasn't bought all of the pretty journals with the best of intentions and then never actually done anything with them? So
no, actually, I used to do it, but then when I was younger, and then I stopped, and I don't even know why I stopped.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So writing as opposed to typing on a computer has more of an impact. Okay. So I highly recommend writing. And if you can, there are a couple of times during the day when it's easier to do it. And first thing in the morning, kind of that transition time from nighttime to morning time is a really good time for opening up what's going on in your unconscious. Also, sunset is a good time. And around 2 or 3 p.m. for moms especially seems to be a really good time for opening up some things there. So what I would do is I would set a timer on my phone or on whatever device you want to use for 10 minutes and just sit down and say, I'm going to do this for 10 minutes. And when 10 minutes is up, I'm done. And that's it. Just every day for the next week, just dedicate 10 minutes of your time. Think of it again like homework for school. 10 minutes of I'm just going to sit down and I'm just going to write. I'm just going to write during those 10 minutes. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
No problem. So, okay. So there you go. So those are the fundamentals. Please feel free to message me or email me as well too if you have any questions throughout this time, and we will be happy to help out with any of the questions that come our way. All right. We love you all. We will see you in 1 week. We will send you the link for the next one in the email along with the resources. Okay?
Bye.
Bye.